It's time for MacBreak Weekly, and yes, we've got a great panel here. Jason Snell, along with Andy and Rene, to talk about what Apple's going to do next week. They're all going to the event, and we'll get a little preview of what they expect to see next on MacBreak Weekly.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for MacBreak Weekly is provided by CacheFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is MacBreak Weekly, episode 418, recorded September 2nd, 2014. Why don't my fingers fit? MacBreak Weekly is brought to you by IT Pro TV. Are you looking to upgrade your IT skills or prepare for certification? IT Pro TV offers engaging and informative tutorials, now with Mac management, streamed to your Roku, computer, or mobile device. For 30% off the lifetime of your account, go to itpro.tv/MacBreak and use the code MacBreak30. And by Hover.com. Hover's the best way to buy and manage domain names. It's simple, honest, and easy to use. For 10% off your first purchase, go to Hover.com and enter the promo code MBW9. And by Squarespace, the all-in-one platform that makes it fast and easy to create your own professional website or online portfolio. For a free 2-week trial and 10% off, go to squarespace.com and use the offer code MacBreak. It's time for MacBreak Weekly, the show where we cover all the Apple news. And far from weekly. In fact, today, a very strong panel as we practice the final week. This is always the toughest time of the Mac year, the week before the iPhone reveal. Jason Snell has come up from his lair in Marin. Good to have you.
It's great to be here. This is the best week.
Executive editor. Managing editor,
editorial director
of IDG,
make up titles,
Macworld, PC World, Tech Hive,
and Greenbot.
But
we don't talk about the Android site today because this is MacBreak
Actually, I didn't realize Greenbot was yours, and so because there was a very good story in Greenbot this week, and I wanted to make sure I covered it, but not here, obviously. We won't ixnay on it. But I didn't realize it was yours, so that's good. That makes it real credible and real, and very good story. But I won't talk about that today because, goodness gracious, we've got an exciting week ahead. Mr. Andy Ihnatko is also here from the Chicago Sun-Times.
Greetings.
And Rene Ritchie from something.
Spanish Montreal.
Spanish Montreal. I'm more.com. Good to have you all here. You're all going on Tuesday to the Flint Center in Cupertino.
We'll be there as we record this exactly a week from now. We'll be sitting in those seats.
We are looking for a way to bring you live to our studios from there after the event. We will cover, I should say, we will cover the event. I was not invited as per usual, although if Gizmo got in, I don't know what they have against me. But we will, Gizmodo got in. Of all things, since the first time since 2009.
Yep.
I kind of want to see how are they dressed? How do they have they decided we're going to have to really savor this, just in case this is just an evil trick. Just in case there's like a big red lever on the stage.
Wouldn't that be funny if Tim Cook
Gizmodo,
said,
"You have a special chair. Sit in the red chair.
Come here.
don't bother looking at the seams that are underneath the floor. Just." You'll know what they're for.
This lends credence to my belief that I'm, in fact, not being punished, but they just forgot about me. Because if I were being punished, I think if Gizmodo's off double super secret probation, then I must be.
Yeah, we had people invited who've never been invited before, and it's just because the venue's so large now.
They just forgot me. How big is the Flint Center? 3,500?
I heard 2,500.
2,500.
It's big.
Is it bigger than Moscone West? No.
I don't think so.
About the same size, I would guess.
A little bit smaller. If that number is accurate.
So it's not for size. I have two theories about it, but we will talk about all of this. Actually, what we're going to do is the first segment has to be iCloud and the fappening, and to use the parlance of the kids.
There's the explicit tag.
To use the language of the street.
That was the worst of the Highlander movies.
We didn't,
Stay off that street.
That story broke yesterday or Sunday during Twit, and I declined to do it because I just felt like this is not something I want to publicize. But by now, I think everybody knows about it and has gone in search of the pictures. And really, the story in this, for us, is the technology story of iCloud security. Now, we should say right up front that no one really knows how these pictures of these naked pictures of celebrities were garnered.
Right. Correct.
Jonathan Zdarsky, who is the guy who did the very interesting speech at 2600 at Hope for about the security of the iPhone and the flaws in the security of the iPhone, has been looking into this. And you know Jonathan. I think you trust Jonathan.
Yeah, sharp guy.
I think he's a very sharp guy. No one is quite sure if... Now, apparently the hackers who published these photos on 4chan, and there was, again, we don't know the provenance of it, but a post from him in a hacker forum, which was republished, saying, thanks to all the people who helped me do this.
Right.
And we're not sure. The first thoughts many have had is that there is a known, or was, it's been fixed, backdoor in Find My iPhone that allowed a brute force remote attack.
Right, they weren't rate limiting password fails, so you could sit there and just keep on trying more and more passwords and theoretically guess the password after millions of attempts.
If you were a...
if you had the email address and they didn't use two-factor, you could...
If you knew the email address, there weren't any other factor, and you were a natural target, which of course I think these actors are.
Sure.
Then you might and this might, that post on the BBS might kind of incriminate them on that regard, because it would take more than one person. It would take a fairly concerted effort. What's
possible also is that you have a group of people who just do this kind of thing, and they had a list of iCloud addresses and they were waiting for an exploit. And then when this exploit was published, as it was a couple days earlier, they picked the best targets that they had available and went after them as quickly as they could. Because even with no rate limit, it still takes a while to do dictionary attacks against email addresses, and you can't get a lot done. I mean, depending on how simple their password is, but it's quite possible, again, that these people have been getting photographs for a long time through a variety of methods, and they were well prepared to act on this flaw when it was discovered.
Well, I've seen some speculation that this might have been a cache of data that somebody had kept
over a period of time,
and then that leaked.
Right.
This is one person who had who didn't protect his stash of naughtiness, and then someone grabbed it and just. But the fact that there's so many that are reported as genuine, but some that are reported as fake, indicates there's a sort of a spread provenance of sources here.
Zdarsky earlier today said that got a full file name dump from at least one celebrity's leak. It is consistent with the theft of an iPhone backup, presumably from iCloud. Zdarsky, this is the most important thing. We're going to say this right up front. Zdarsky says, and I think we all agree, if you haven't done so, change your iCloud password, particularly if you're a celebrity. Turn on second-factor authentication.
Yes.
And this is a really important step. A lot of people, I don't keep anything on PhotoStream, but delete any old iCloud backups, because he believes it's now that it's not iCloud, the photo stream, it's iCloud backups that were...
Right, so you think the photo that you're embarrassed by or couldn't leak out, if you delete it from your photo stream, it's not necessarily gone. It may be in your iCloud backup, the safest thing to do.
If you back up your iPhone or iPad.
Yeah, and you should point out that, I mean, we should point out that you can turn off camera roll backup when you go through the iCloud list, and it's one of the best things to do because it takes up so much of your iCloud space anyway. So if you don't need it, absolutely turn that off.
And also make sure you go through your social media stuff. Flickr, when you install the Flickr app, it asks, do you want me to back up your stuff automatically? Dropbox is the same thing. Facebook will do the same thing. Go through everything that deals with photos. Really, when it comes to personal photos, and we're not talking about naughtiness, we're just talking about family photos I don't want the world to see. The only time that gets backed up is over copper inside on my desktop, and that's how my level of trust is for this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I do store pictures on Google and on Facebook and on iCloud. I turned off PhotoStream a long time ago, but mostly because I didn't seem to be able to control those pictures. I kept getting my son's pictures mixed in with mine because we shared accounts. So I'm looking at my iPad right here. Would you walk me through, because this is the most important thing. By the way, is by default, is PhotoStream turned on, uploads turned on?
I think so.
It is the default. So somebody was saying, why would anybody upload these nudies? Well, A, if it's a backup, then that's not even been uploaded. That's just being backed up. And B, it's default, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So can you help me, Jason? Let's get rid of this right now. So we're going to go to iCloud. This is on an iPad, but it'll be very similar. Should I do storage and backup?
Well, one thing you can do is go to Photos
and disable this.
And turn off my photo stream.
Turning off photo stream will delete all photos from your iPad that have been downloaded.
Right.
But it'll delete the photos on the photo stream on iCloud.
That's a good question.
It depends on if you have other devices using it.
Yeah, so
Right.
that's something important. You're going to go to all your iOS devices and iPhoto on the Macintosh and disable that.
Right.
Now, what am I going to do about the backups? I've been storing backups. I have iCloud backup.
Put a managed storage.
Managed storage.
And it takes a while.
This
so you
is
might
going
have
to take a
go
long
through the screen.
time. And I will be able to delete the backups, the old backups.
Yeah, I think you can delete the photo backups. In fact,
You can turn off you can turn off backing up the camera roll, and you can also delete, because one of the things Zdarsky found when he looked at Kate Upton's, they had all the EXIF information for Kate Upton, and it turned out that he believes at least it was her boyfriend's data that was compromised. But there were multiple iPhones registered, so it could have been she had an old iPhone 3GS backup and she was currently using a new iPhone and maybe forgot about it. But there was also multiple dates and times and maybe multiple devices involved. So it's an important thing for people to know how to do and to keep track of.
Yeah, that's kind of the dark flip side of how easy some companies make it to administrate and back up your hardware. You forget how to do it yourself, and therefore you're not aware of the risks of basically daily life with this device.
I don't know. I mean, syncing your photos is really convenient. I think it would be a shame if the lesson we took from this is, well, turn off all photo syncing. I think
no, it's really useful.
I think you do need to be aware, and a lot of, especially, I mean, I've got a 12-year-old, almost 13-year-old daughter. Being aware that when you take a photo with your iPhone, unless you make some choices, it's going to sync it to the cloud.
Yeah. Right.
And at that point, you're asking everybody to perform pretty serious security practices. Have a hard-to-guess password, a good password. Have two-factor authentication turned on. Yeah. These are not things that regular people, busy people I would imagine like these stars, in fact, are going to be really comfortable with.
They are now. In fact, they're probably in Hollywood is going to be a very big business in people who help stars secure.
It's going to be like a
stuff.
bodyguard, right?
Yeah.
They'll have a cyber bodyguard.
That's the difficulty I'm talking about. If you don't understand how your car works, you might decide that, oh well, it's no big deal. I ran out of gas in the middle of the road. Well, I mean, at least now I know exactly what the empty level is. If you know how cars work, you know that, okay, you probably just fried out the fuel injectors in your engine, and also your fuel pump, which gets cooled from the gas in the tank, also probably got fried. And that might be $1,000 repair, like 4 months down the road when these things start going away. I think that maybe we and Apple and everybody else are doing people a disservice when we expect, don't learn how these things work. It just works automatically. You don't even have to think about settings or anything like that. There needs to be a certain basic level of admin literacy for every device that you own. I don't think we should discourage people from learning how to do that stuff. And I think this is a situation like this is not an opportunity to scare people into thinking never back anything else up via Dropbox, but it's an opportunity to say, here's how things work. You got to know how things work on a starship, Lieutenant, and basically so that they have that information so that they're not caught by a surprise like this.
I kind of disagree. I feel like it's the promise of computing is so great. It's a shame that you have to become a security expert to use it.
Well, the idea should be that the defaults
literacy, not an expert, but literacy. I mean,
the defaults need to be very specific. I mean, Apple doesn't like to talk about security. It doesn't want its users to think about security, but I think this is a good example of how Apple needs to crank up what it considers the default level of security on its devices. And something like this,
that's who's going to take the blame, whether or not they deserve it. Is Apple.
The rate limit bug is their fault. If that is how this got out, that's their fault. But I see people in the chat room talking about, well, I'm never going to use this service again. Every photo syncing service has this exact same issue. Your photos are on a server somewhere, and if somebody knows the password, they can see them. So I feel like this is. All of these companies are really reluctant to move to something like two-factor authentication because it's a huge support issue. It's a huge communication issue. But at the same time, it's way more secure than what we have now. And so at some point, I think they're going to have to just bite the bullet because this is too painful.
There's another problem to consider, and that is, I mean, it's a huge interface challenge, security. It's incredibly hard to present that in an understandable way to people. But, things like iCloud exist because people weren't backing up. And when people didn't back up, they lost things, and that was also a huge problem. So you have to juggle these two contentious issues, which is keeping people's data safe and also making sure that data isn't used against them. For example, I use PhotoStream. I back up my camera roll. It's 98% iOS 8 screenshots right now. But I have no problem backing anything up to any service. I consider it fine. Some people will have a problem, and they should have tools. And I like Dave Wiskus is a designer behind Vesper, and he had the idea that just like you have private browsing mode on Safari, you should have private camera mode on the camera app. And there's a very easy to see switch. You hit it, it's in private mode.
Go.
Those photos are never backed up.
There you go.
They're temporary. They delete themselves after a short period of time, and then you can use it safely, visibly, understandably, and not have to worry about the complexities of backup.
I should point out, Google Plus does not upload by default, nor does Facebook upload by default. This is an Apple.
They ask you when you start.
They ask you. They give you the opportunity, but this is an Apple default that perhaps shouldn't be a default. But I am always recommending that people turn these on, and I use Facebook, Google, and Apple, and Dropbox. I upload, and OneDrive. I let them all take copies of my pictures. But I guess the really bottom line is you should be careful. Anything on the internet could at any point become public. So when you put something on the internet, you should consider whether you're willing to have that become public. Right. And I agree that Apple and others should make it easier to do. I mean, look, people are going to take compromising pictures with their smartphone. That's what it's for.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's this issue that it's
and I don't want to stop people from doing that.
Well, maybe there's a new market in secure photo apps that don't save to a camera roll, and
like Snapchat already.
Well, that's
Camera Plus does that, right? Camera Plus will save it to its own unique storage that is not. Well, it's backed up by.
But if it's encrypted,
anything's backed up by Apple Backup.
Yeah,
right?
but if it's encrypted before it's backed up, then you would need your secret password.
Yeah,
it's important to understand. Also, these aren't new issues. Like a long time ago, paparazzi hit on beaches and took photos and sold them to tabloids, and they pushed them on every cashier line.
Right.
And I used to do self-defense and personal protection, and you have to explain to people why it is your absolute right to wear anything you want and go anywhere you want, but this is a savage world, and you have to take precautions against those. Yeah.
Wait a minute. What did you used to do?
Personal protection and self-defense.
What? You were like a bodyguard?
No, I taught people. Anyway, it was a much before I got into gadgets.
Wait a minute, I need to know more about this. Hold on a second.
He's a published author of many books on
Rene,
this subject.
are you packing right now?
What do you do? Karate? What are you doing? Nunchucks?
Most recently I do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but that's just I do a lot of different things. But the idea was that most of it has nothing to do with. Sorry?
Nobody told me.
No, you see, the thing is, like martial arts, any expert will tell you that has like 10% to do with self-defense. Self-defense is almost entirely behavior prevention, role-playing modeling, understanding how the world is and making sure that you minimize your target. And cybersecurity is the same thing. What is the threat assessment for this, and how do I make sure that I am not, if I am a visible target, how do I protect myself, and how do I make sure I'm not a visible target?
It's a wake-up call for everybody, for sure. But we've always said that it's your behavior that really, not having people say, oh, I got an antivirus, I'm safe. I got a bodyguard. I know jiu-jitsu. I'm safe. No, it's your
But it is clear to like this is a crime. Like these people had a crime committed. Like,
horrible crime.
It's a celebrity nude picture. It's not a big deal. No, this
is a horrible
data was
crime.
Stolen. Credit card data can be stolen. Personal data. This was data that was stolen from these people and distributed without their permission. This is an absolute crime. It doesn't matter what the content.
No, and we don't in any way contest that or condone it. That's not at all what we're talking about. This is a hack. Yeah.
No, I think it's even more intense than that, given the nature of the quote data unquote that was being disseminated. That's a violation of someone's person. That's terrible.
Yeah.
I think the good news is I think a lot of almost everybody agrees, and there has been a general rejection of those photos, of passing them around, and I think that's the good news. Is this was so egregious. It wasn't just one or two pictures. It was so egregious. There was so much of it. I think even 4chan has 4chan taken it down or not? You can't really expect much from 4chan.
No, Reddit has definitely been.
Reddit immediately did. Imager, which was holding a lot of these images, those sites are being shut down as they are discovered. But
it's people who rally about the importance of privacy and security are also taking delight in the violation of the privacy and security of others, which should not be a point that shouldn't be lost on them.
Actually, besides Jonathan Zdarsky, Swift on Security has been my go-to. Yes. This is actually a really good Twitter account by somebody pretending to be Taylor Swift. I think it's a woman in security, because her advice is really good. And she wrote a really excellent piece on her Tumblr. I'm going to see if I can find that. On what I would do as Taylor Swift, what I would do if my phone had been compromised like this. And if you just read it, the first thing that she says is, okay, everybody should have a a Faraday bag ready at all times to stick your phone in. And because you want to, you don't hear it as waxing poetic, swift on security. But I have to.
A parody account has to do this. That's a remarkable.
But it's actually great. If my phone got hacked, and what she recommends is fairly interesting. Now, some of it requires you being a very rich, famous celebrity, because what she wants to do is put it in a Faraday bag, but because the phones then increase their power to 100% to communicate with radio towers. You don't want the phone to go off because there's important forensic information there. So you have a battery in the Faraday bag with it. Plus, you have a window on your Faraday bag that'll help you as you're flying to Apple or Microsoft in Redmond. As you're on your way in your private jet, you want to be able to go through all your accounts, see what was compromised, and change those passwords immediately. She says, luckily, I don't use Android, which I wouldn't trust to take a time-lapse video of a flower I wasn't ever planning on watching.
It's good to point out, too, that this is not just a cloud storage. I mean, people have had their phones, literally their phones, a physical phone stolen.
That's right.
People have had people with positions of trust, like people who worked at hotels, technicians who set up their devices, people who ran their social media for them, who had access to their accounts. There are multiple vectors to getting to people. Well, so it's not as simple as.
But what's really telling is this is. It looks like, according to Zdarsky, this is the iCloud backup of their device.
I mean, at the core, what this is about is where complicated technology collides with this expectation of ease of use in these devices that everybody is using now.
That's right.
And all the, I mean, when we talk about Apple making things on by default and doing the backups, they're trying to make life easier. And the more complicated you make it, in some cases, the more secure you make it. But they don't want, I mean, this is the battle, is they don't want to make it too complicated. They don't want people to feel like they're back in the day of installing antivirus software on their PC. But this can be the result of that. And it's fascinating to watch, and I don't know what the solution is. Matt Honan wrote a great article on Wired about the death of the password a while back, and how security is really not very secure on the internet, and we want to use it because it's so darn convenient, and computer companies want to make it easy to use. But the easier you make it, and sometimes the less secure it is, and that's what we're running up against. Jennifer Lawrence doesn't want to have a 15-character password that she has to input every time she restarts her phone. But if she doesn't,
that puts the burden on Apple, though.
Yeah.
Well,
here's Apple. By the way, Apple posted this on September 2nd at 2:30 p.m. Eastern time.
9 minutes ago.
Yeah. We wanted to provide an update to our investigation into the theft of photos of certain celebrities. When we learned of the theft, we were outraged and immediately mobilized Apple's engineers to discover the source. Our customers' privacy and security are of utmost importance to us. After more than 40 hours of investigation, we have discovered that certain celebrity accounts were compromised by a very targeted attack on usernames, passwords, and security questions, a practice that has become all too common on the internet. None of the cases we have investigated has resulted from any breach in any of Apple's systems, including iCloud or Find My iPhone. We are now, breach is different from the brute force of it.
Right, yeah. So it's possible that the brute force bug was used.
And they did offer a fix for the brute force, so that seems to me that they... Of course, that fix was proactive before they knew what it was. They said, well, let's fix this anyway. We're continuing to work with law enforcement to help identify the criminals involved. To protect against this type of attack, we advise all users to always use a strong password and enable two-step verification.
So if people don't know what two-step is, the idea here is that whenever I want to edit anything involving my my Apple ID, I get a text message that's sent to either my phone or my wife's phone, and it's got a code. And if I don't enter in that code, nothing can happen. So even if you knew my password and my Apple ID, you would also need to have one of those phones in your hand all at once in order to do it. And yes, that could happen, but it's a much less likely scenario because at that point you have to basically rob somebody and make them put in their passwords and things like that. Yeah. And if they don't have my phone
on your phone as well, right?
Exactly, absolutely. So there two-factor is a little complex to start, and it's kind of a pain because now every time I want to log into Apple's site or Google or anywhere else, I've got all these two-factor codes I have to enter. But it means that somebody who guesses my password, even if they guess my password, which is a hard password to guess, they can't get in because they don't know the code because they don't have my phone.
By the way, this explains why Snapchat is so popular, because there's the perception, not the reality.
The perception that
the perception that it disappears.
Which iMessage does in iOS 8 as well.
Yeah. Mark Cuban has released something called Cyberdust that does the same thing. I think that there's going to be a market for this kind of thing among celebrities.
Yeah.
There's
Although
some
it's
people in the chat. There's some people in the chat room who are worrying that I'm apologizing for Apple. And I just want to be clear: a hack of Find My iPhone would be bad for Apple, but would be the best possible outcome for me, because that will be closed down, and then I don't have to worry about it.
It is closed down, right?
The stuff, yeah, absolutely. What I'm trying to warn people about, and what Leo mentioned in that statement, is that this is not so simple as a hack. A hack is, very bad for them, good for us. They can close it. This is people who are continually finding ways to try and go for your password, go for email address, go for your security questions. Security questions are a horrible idea. I don't like that companies use them. I fill them with pseudo-random blobs and record them in 1Password, so they're not guessable or unearable.
I agree. Yeah. And the fact that Apple mentions the security questions, I think, is telling. Remember, Paris Hilton got hacked. Her iPhone got hacked. In fact, there have been a number of iPhone hacks due to these security questions. These are not. In fact, I don't think security questions should be allowed.
I agree.
They're a convenience to the company because people forget passwords.
They're guessable passwords. It's
but
the worst.
They're guessable passwords.
Well, while we're on that subject, there's also such a problem of guessable email accounts that are attached to your phone.
Yeah.
So that's why it's probably good practice from this point forward to you have a separate account that's just used for syncing, and it's not your name, first name, last name. It's not anything attached to you. It is like a 1Password blob of ASCII.
That's a good idea.
Make a Gmail account that isn't your name, and that's Matt Honan found that out in his Wired story, because he got hacked and he got his phone's remote wiped and lost his actually pictures of his children, and it was horrifying. But one of the reasons was a lot of sites were doing password resets where they showed the email address it was going to, and then they would hack that email address. That has changed, where now you'll get like one character and then like the last character .com. But still, Andy is exactly right. Set up a Gmail account that's your safe haven, that nobody knows, and that's just some random unguessable Gmail account, and have things go there.
So let me just recap real quickly. Don't use your real name as your login, as your Apple ID.
As your retrieval address, at least.
Yeah. In fact, you should probably create a Gmail account that is a random string or something only you would know.
Only you would know, right?
Not your dog's name, not your street address, not your zip code, but something only you would know. When you use security questions, and they do, many sites do still require you to set up security questions, which is a massive flaw, don't answer the question with a real answer. Who is your favorite singer or band in high school? Don't answer the Beatles. Answer something that's what you use, a random blob, Rene, that you generate with something like LastPass.
Basically another password, yeah.
And you save it in LastPass, because obviously you're never going to recover that. That's going to really help you. And then finally turn on two-step verification. I think if you do all of the above, then it would have to be a flaw in Apple's systems.
Right, and that we've seen hacks come from the inside where there's compromised internal security. But in this case, it seems like that's not what happened, that this is about bad external security. Individual people with guessable security questions or guessable passwords.
A little blame goes to Apple for allowing these kind of less secure solutions.
Yes, yes. And although that's true, I think, for everybody. I mean, these guys are all watching each other, too. Google and Apple and Microsoft and Facebook. I mean, they're all, and Amazon, they're all looking at each other about these things because, in fact, Matt Honan's hack was across multiple websites.
And it was a social engineering hack. It was not even a technology hack.
But it was one of those cases where Apple had a better security practice than Amazon, so they went through Amazon.
Right. Yeah. And but then used the information garnered from Amazon
to reset the Apple account. Yeah.
So Apple had a vulnerability as well.
Yeah.
I think the good news is, and I think Zdarsky and others have banged on Apple enough to make sure that Apple's security policies, and Steve Gibson will talk about this, I'm sure, later on Security Now, and he has in the past, are very strong. Probably the strongest of all of the smartphones out there.
Yeah, I agree.
But you're going to have to do some stuff too. And I agree, there are some things Apple can do. For instance, having a private photo button that says this isn't going to get uploaded anywhere is a great idea. And furthermore, it'll be encrypted or something is a great idea. Because I don't think what you can't, I think what you can't do and shouldn't do is say, well, user, you've got to stop taking pictures. You've got to stop putting pictures on the internet. Users are going to do that. And so
there's nothing wrong with that either. I mean,
and it's your right.
There's a lot of blame going on. You know, if you buy a car and someone steals it, even if the locks aren't great on the car, someone still stole it.
Yeah.
If you were never born, you would never feel pain and you would never die. So you cannot go backwards and say if you never took a photo, it would never be stolen. That's ridiculous.
Right.
Also, the upside of these backups far outweigh anything else. I mean, if my iPhone got remote wiped, I would be very pleased that Dropbox still has copies of my photos. So there's always going to be a need to. It is not that we're turning this to a philosophy of life, but pain is part of life, and so you, as second Star Trek movie reference, I need my pain. My pain is useful to me. My pain is valuable, and so the risk of having things backed up offsite is usually not as big as the actual danger of losing that video of your baby's first steps and that sort of thing.
And the thing is, if you're a celebrity, again, just like, I have a house, I have to put a lock on that door. If I was a celebrity, I'd have to take even more security procedures. And it's not fair and it's horrible, but it's the realities of the world that we live in. And eventually it's going to be digital is the same as the real world. You'll have to take even more security precautions just because there are more people targeting you.
And to reiterate, Jonathan Zdarsky has been doing a lot of very good work in public on his Twitter. He says he has spoken to the FBI about the things he's posted on Twitter, as well as more information that he has not posted publicly. Just got off the phone with an investigator at FBI, conveyed my findings. He believes, and I think that there's strong evidence that he's correct, that this was not a hack into iCloud exactly, it was, or into PhotoStream, but it was in fact somebody was able to get the backups from these people's phone and by the way, his most recent post is, according to Apple, PhotoStream doesn't contain videos. There were videos in this file dump, so videos must come from backup.
What some people have said is that once you get the password and the username, you can get the encryption keys and you can go straight to AWS or to Azure where the actual backups are stored and pull them off.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's true or not, but that's one of the theories.
Yeah. And incidentally, this person will be caught. I'm given the information that Zdarsky has already posted about who this person is. This person will be caught. I don't think this person's going to get away from or persons. It seems likely persons are going to get away with it.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like a really positive change in the climate. I can think of this time last year, or the year before. It seems as though there is a leak. There is a unintentional, undesired release of photos because of a boyfriend or someone who getting access to people's phones, and that's more like a blip in the celebrity news. And this year, we're saying no, that's completely unacceptable, and we are not. Not only is it wrong for that person to have done that, it is also morally wrong to even want to look at even an edited version of that photo on a popular entertainment site. And so that's why all these sites that are usually had been running around thinking that we are the celebrity mavericks, we're going to report on anything. Even Perez Hilton took down all the pictures he had posted and put in big apologies saying that was an absolutely wrong thing to do. I did it fast because that's how we post things, and over and over again, I was wrong. I should not have done that, and I apologize for having done that. So if the other things that come out of this is a certain increase in genteel behavior or even ethical behavior, that's a really big positive. And
we'll put this in the show notes, but Zdarsky is on Twitter at JZD ZIARSKI, and certainly worth following, as well as Swift on security. Zdarsky retweeted Swift's post from yesterday. Computer security's dirty little secret is how much of the, quote, hacking people hear about is just brain-dead color by numbers stuff. And that's the other side of this. This is not a brilliant hack by any means. This really reflects more persistence and evil. Having a target and going having a target and an evil little mind, and that's the most dangerous thing of all. We rarely see these security breaches where everybody's data is at stake, but we rarely see a situation where if somebody really wants your data specifically, that person got thrown away at the door. It really depends, like any good magic trick, it depends on how hard you're willing to work to get the result you want, and a lot of people are willing to work 100 times harder than you imagine that they would be willing to work at it. Anyway, thank you, Jonathan Zdarsky. Thank you, Taylor Swift on security.
There was a good point Steve Gibson raised on Twitter, and he was responding to some people who were asking us a question. He was talking about just there are a lot of attacks out there, and I know some people have made a big deal about the timing of this. Like immediately after the story broke, news organizations put iCloud hack in headlines at a speed with which I could not believe they'd done any thinking about it whatsoever. I mean, it could be an iCloud hack, maybe it wouldn't be, maybe they'd ultimately be proven right, but they didn't think before they did it. They just put it in the headline because that is how you get clicks. And Apple has a big reveal coming up, and we're going to talk about it later, but part of that involves mobile payments. And people are going to conflate these issues. People are going to, like, my mother already contacted me about this, and she's like the last person in the chain of how this information spreads, asking questions about what's going to happen with payments. And it doesn't matter that, Target or other retailers have been involved in massive breaches last year. It doesn't matter whether this was a specific hack on a specific user account and not an iCloud hack in general. People are going to see those headlines that were really great to get clicks for about 24 hours on websites, and it is going to scare them and make them reticent for technology that could help them the same way iCloud backups help people most of the time, or the way that Touch ID helps people most of the time. I think that's another victim in this. And not Apple. Apple doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it was Apple or Microsoft or anybody. But that we are so quick to give people that sort of fear of technology, I think we should stop and think about sometimes.
And I love Recode. Actually, I don't. I'm being sarcastic. Whose tweet is, Apple says it was hacked in targeted account. Apple said specifically it was not hacked.
No.
Right.
Yeah.
Its users were hacked.
But that's the big point, and unfortunately, this is hugely damaging for Apple. I think the takeaway on this, the timing couldn't be worse, and the takeaway is going to be that normal people like your mom, Rene, are going to have it burned into their brain. Oh, you can't trust this thing.
You can trust the Visa card with the NFC chip that you might drop and let people buy gas over and over again.
Yeah.
But it's got Apple, and I heard these things about Apple last week or last month.
Yeah. We're still in the process of updating what we believe Apple would do and would not do in any situation, because it is a completely different Apple now, I think, over the past couple of years. And so it's going to be interesting to see next week if they mention this obliquely, if they totally rewrite whatever section of the script was going to be talking about iCloud and security, or whether they simply do what Tim Cook did about Maps, only with this case, something they're not 100% responsible for, and simply saying, here's exactly what happened, here's how we're working with them, and here's why your data is going to be safe. And by the way, we're going to take a look behind the curtain to show you exactly how hard we work to make sure that your data that you entrust to us, we will not compromise to anybody else.
I think Steve Jobs would not have mentioned this. I think Tim Cook will. I think he needs to directly.
Wouldn't surprise me if since some of these features that we see in iOS 8 are things like the auto-expiring photos, I think they're going to have to at least give a nod to, isn't this nice? The photos expire.
I want him to step up to the front of the stage and say, I want to talk about this. I want to apologize, and we are doing everything we can. He needs to apologize. I agree. You and I, we all know he doesn't. But I think he needs to the regular people say.
Well, I think you extol the virtues of like they seem to be saying use two-factor, right? So maybe one of the things that they'll be able to say is something like, we're recommending for all users of iOS 8 that they turn on this thing, and we're going to make it easier for you to do this.
That's what he needs to do.
Explain what two-factor is.
Here's what we're going to do.
Because two-factor would help a lot.
Here's how we're going to take care of this. He can't say, hey, it's their fault. We gave them lots of tools to prevent this. No. He has to fall on his sword, even though everybody knows, everybody in the inside knows it's not their fault, and say, look, we're sorry that was even possible, and here's what we're going to do from going forward to make sure it never happens again. I think he has to do that.
I think when the
probably do is show
differences,
everybody.
I think when the signature differences of the new Apple, at least the kind that they choose to present through their media events, is a heightened sense of empathy to people who are not outside of Apple. So this is why I think that when they're whiteboarding how they're going to respond to this, part of it is, how does an outsider look at this problem? Whether they're correct or incorrect, how do they perceive this?
Exactly.
And we have to acknowledge that without information, it's natural for people to come to bad conclusions.
Yes.
And my guess will be that we'll see Apple as part of a presentation. This has happened, and a bunch of companies have been affected by this, including Apple. And here's how Apple is going to address it.
Yeah, I would. It would. Look, it's technically correct to say this has happened to others. It's not our fault. All of those things. I think it's so important, the kind of semiotics of this, the subtext of this, for him to apologize, to be honest with you, and say,
I don't know if they need to apologize, because there's the thing about falling on your sword is sometimes there's a point to it, and sometimes you're just putting on a hair shirt. You want people to see how much you're willing to suffer to show how serious you think this is. I think there's a good opportunity for Apple to, as Rene say, I don't think it's unlikely they would say this is a problem that affects all kinds of different platforms, but not in a defensive way of saying, hey, look, it's not us, it's just the way things work.
Yep, don't be defensive. It's wrong.
But say we can do better.
A way of them saying that if you have an Android, if you have a Windows Phone device, the advice we're about to give you applies to you as well. So please pay attention.
Yeah, we can do better is a good one. We have always been highly committed to keeping your data secure. No company does as much, and still it's not enough. We're going to do even better.
So it's not necessarily an apology, but it's a commitment that this is a problem, and then it's very
finesse it.
In typical Apple, you say we're going to step up and solve it.
Yeah,
and then we'll see.
Incidentally, if the Apple stock price is anything to judge us by, it's gone up. So it hasn't hurt Apple.
Headline: Celebrities enjoy Apple products.
I was just thinking about how the old Apple would say, "We've made sharing photos to the world as easy as possible."
Yeah.
Look at all our famous users.
Look how easy it is. Yeah. You know what's funny? I mean, Swift on Security made this point. I wouldn't use an Android phone, but none of this came from Android.
No.
In this case, fragmentation might be an advantage. Right.
Well, I mean, but that's the thing is like no one is immune to bugs and no one is immune to social engineering. You can't design a system to prevent those things because otherwise people who need them wouldn't be able to get in.
Right.
Well, and Apple is a leader in the high-end phone space, and celebrities
who in Hollywood doesn't have an iPhone.
Exactly.
Right?
The ones who are paid endorsers for other phones probably is
and often they're still tweeting.
And they go backstage and they tweet from their iPhone.
Yeah.
So.
So if you've got a target of opportunity, of course, it's going to be the iPhone.
So the takeaway, once again, and Apple made a statement during this conversation in which they explained that they were taking this very seriously. They're working very hard. They don't believe that the systems, iCloud or Find My iPhone, were hacked, that there is a vulnerability that we should worry about. However, everybody should have this takeaway that when you have stuff on the internet, it is potentially vulnerable. So A, don't put anything on the internet you don't want anybody to see. B, secure your stuff by using good, strong passwords. Don't use security questions. At least don't use them and answer them properly. I always make up answers. Non-guessable answers, because that's always a problem with celebrities. There's so much in public. Taylor Swift, not Taylor Swift,
Wikipedia page, right?
Yeah, Paris Hilton got hacked because she used her dog's, we think she used her dog's name in one of the security questions. And
also, if you want to share private photos, use something that is ephemeral and encrypted. Use, an app that is specific.
Not Snapchat.
No, they're secure. There are secure apps, though.
It's funny. Probably shouldn't say this, but there are apps for couples that I use with my couple, my significant other, and perhaps because they're not high profile, those maybe have not been hacked, but that's a real cause for security as well. It's a concern as well. And finally, pay attention because your behavior is absolutely important in all of this.
Yeah, the internet isn't public, but it's just like the real world. If you're going to go somewhere and you don't want people to see you go there, you take certain precautions. If you're going to use something on the internet and you don't want people to know about it, you take certain precautions.
Yeah. All right, we're going to take a break. We do have a lot to talk about. An Apple reveal is just around the corner, and these cats are going there. Me, I'll be staying back. We'll talk about our coverage and what we're going to do just for you, and what we expect to see in Flint and Cupertino.
Think of it this way. Think of it this way, Leo. You're Ripley in the dropship, while the colonial Marines have to go out and deal with the aliens.
Yeah, I'm more like Michael Collins watching Aldrin and Armstrong make history while I rotate around the moon. All right.
He's the one. He was the one that was almost definitely coming back. So there are advantages to each seat in that spacecraft.
I would prefer to put my life on the line and go to an Apple event, but okay.
You can sit there and yell out, "It's a trap, Leo."
Our show today brought to you by some really great folks that we love an awful lot. IT Pro TV. Tim and Don over there had been doing this, teaching people how to, get their certs, get their A+, their MCSEs by studying, and they're great educators. But they watched what we did here at Twit, and they said, maybe this is an opportunity for us to do something more appealing, more fun. And they created IT Pro TV pretty much on our model, and we were glad to share it with them. They use TriCasters, they use similar cameras, they use the same microphones. In fact, if you go to itpro.tv and watch their live feed, you'll see it looks very similar. And I think this is great. I personally celebrate this. It is an easy, entertaining approach to online IT training. They now have Apple Mac management, by the way, which is awesome. They're adding 30 hours of courseware every single week. You see their schedule there on the right. They're live much of the day. During their live broadcast, you can chat with them just as you can with us. There are hundreds of hours of content already up besides the live streaming courses. Also, they have a Apple Mac management, but they also have Linux, Windows, and OS X support for desktop servers and more. It is a great way to study. Look at all the, go there and look at all the courses they have. Just the CompTIA, the Apple stuff, the Windows stuff. And if you would like to learn, this is probably the most affordable way to do it. $57 a month and $570 for an entire year. That's so much less than going to a technical school to prep for your tests. And you can go directly to any part of any of these courses. They're broken up by the test chapters. It does look awful lot like Twitter Tech TV, I have to say. That's Don right there. I mean, you really couldn't look more like Tech TV right there. I love it. They've also added a new web interface and learning management system so you can track your progress with your subscription. You get free the practice tests. That's a $79 value right there. They also have, if you don't say, I don't have a Windows server, I don't have the machines, they have a virtual system that's really great, can be used in any HTML5 browser so that you can actually practice. I just love this stuff. Corporate accounts also available for departments and companies. Check out the corporate group pricing link at the bottom of the pricing page. Corporate IT departments have been really quick to jump on this for their team members. So whether you're trying to get a cert so you can get ready for your future or become a better IT pro, or you're a company looking to train your employees, itpro.tv/MacBreak. I mentioned it's $57 a month, but of course, because they're fans of ours and we're believing them, they've got an offer code for you. MacBreak30, MacBreak30. That gives you 30% off your subscription, not for the first month or year, but for the lifetime of your account. Now it's less than $40 a month, $399 for the entire year. You can't even buy a prep book for that. itpro.tv/MacBreak. Use a code. There they are wearing the fezzes. Use the offer code MacBreak30 to get 30% off. Tim and Don are great guys. And they do a really good job of sneaking into my office and stealing all our stuff. And actually, I love
it. They wear keppies, not fezzes. So it's not like they're really.
No, right? It's not.
They're not Samsung. I don't think you should. That's right.
No, and they have a Roku app like we do. I mean, it's just such a good solution for people. And I've talked to so many people who have used it and have gotten their certs. It's just really fabulous. All right. Week from today, here's what we're going to do. The invitations went out. What did the invitations? Was it a paper invitation or was it email?
It's just email.
Yeah,
I wanted a paper. It looked like cut out.
Actually, it's one of the prettiest ones they've sent out. It actually made me think, gee, if they actually gave me a copy of this on art stock, I might actually put that in my office because it's very quiet, understated.
It's also one of the more
cryptic
invitations.
Yeah, wish we could say more.
Wish we could say more doesn't really give you anything. The only speculation I've heard is, maybe there's something new with Siri. I don't think that's really what they're saying here. They know perfectly well. Everybody knows what's coming. It is, but it's beautiful, I think. And boy, I would love to have gotten one because I would go. I just want you to know, Apple, I would go. Even though somebody has to stay here and anchor, it could be somebody else. But what we're going to do, it's 10 a.m. It's for the first time in a long time, it's back in Cupertino. This is where they did the original Mac reveal. Remember Steve Jobs in the bow tie pulling the Mac out of the case? Were you at that?
I was not. I was in 8th grade then. But
I'm the only one here old enough to have actually been there.
The original iMac reveal was also at the Flint Center in Cupertino.
Ah.
So this is the first Apple event since then. Yeah.
Since then. Okay, so that's since 1998. So
right.
It's been quite a while. It's 16 years since they've done it there.
Historic.
Why Flint Center? Speculation?
It's a big deal event, and they want a lot of people there.
Yeah, people like to do the Apple Kremlinology thing, and it's fun, let's admit it. But in reality, a lot of venues are really hard to book. They've got other things going on. Like, they love doing big events at Moscone West, but if there's a trade show booked there, sometimes those shows are booked years in advance. Can they get Yerba Buena Theater?
Lately, they've been using the Yerba Buena Theater, which is 350
I think
people.
They're a little frustrated by the size of it, but Town Hall on the Apple campus is also very small. Presumably, the Apple Campus 2 that they're building will have some sort of Thunderdome that they'll be able to use instead. But in the meantime, I mean, the Flint Center, they've also used the theater in downtown San Jose, the California Theater, for a couple events. I think it was available, and I think talking to Apple people about WWDC and other events they do in San Francisco, I think, you know, they're all down in Cupertino, so it's an extra bar of difficulty when you have to come up. Everybody has to drive up to San Francisco multiple times to do the setup, to do the rehearsal and all of that. So it's some combination of availability and convenience, I think. And I think the size is a bonus, too. They can invite people who they usually have to turn away.
The size is still not big enough, by the way, for Leo Laporte. No, the size is still...
This speaks a man in pain. Listen, everybody.
The size is still not big enough for the demo area. And I presume that's what this big white box is that they've been building for several weeks outside of the Flint Center. Is I would think a demo area, right?
Yeah. That's going to be an interesting problem, getting 2,500 people through the hands-on they're going to get, particularly when you see, Jason and I have both been, and I'm sure Rene have been to like Samsung scale events where you have 2,000, 2,500 people, members of the press and bloggers, and each one of them wants to try to do a 5-minute exclusive YouTube video with a full review of it. And so there's like a line of people huddled around every single demo unit. And so I'm really curious to see how they're going to manage that. If they're going to basically say, okay, you're in Group A, Group B, Group C, that table is for you.
Andy, you've made me flash back to that Samsung event we went to at Radio City Music Hall. We just decided to stand on the side for a while and let the media horde descend, and then we would get back to it later. But I do think this looks like a demo area. And I saw my good buddy Dan Morin from Macworld mentioned back when they launched the iPod Hi-Fi, which was kind of a flop, but they had like
that was at Apple's campus.
And they had like a dorm, they had like
upstairs.
a conference room built up like a dorm room, and you look at this big box and you wonder, you know, maybe there's something about the HomeKit stuff. Or something else that there's actually a demo area where they need to show stuff off to build this whole big thing.
The box is as tall as the Flint Center, which means there could be 2 stories in there. I don't see them building a 20-foot tall ceiling for no reason.
Plus, they might need areas to give private briefings to
upstairs,
as opposed to pulling people to another building.
Right.
So the floor map of this is going to be as fun to speculate about as anything piece of hardware they'll actually release.
So here's what we're going to do. I am stuck here. So I will be here at 10 a.m. Do we know yet if they're streaming it? They have streamed the last few events. Do we know yet if there will be a video stream?
You never know.
You don't know until the time comes.
Until like 2 hours beforehand.
So no matter what, we will do it. In fact, in a way, if they don't stream it, that's better for us because then we can give you a synopsis and you don't. Otherwise, you can just go watch for yourself. But Mike Elgin will be with me, Sarah Lane and I, and we will do the coverage. I expect this is going to be a long one, maybe 10 to noon.
Yeah, usually a couple hours.
Go ahead.
Especially given that we're not expecting them to simply say, "Hey, look, we made it flat," or "Hey, look, we've got this new Touch ID system." Well, I think we're all expecting not only, even if they don't necessarily introduce a new product, which I think we all believe that they will. This is going to have to be. We have to explain our thinking behind why we did this the way we did that. And if they do come up with a wearable, they're going to have to spend they're going to have to do Citizen Kane on us for the beginning, a middle, and an end. They're going to have to start it off with somebody whispering Rosebud, finding out the every single step they took in order to do it, because Apple likes to make their message really, really clear. Not just here are the features of what we made, but here are the choices that we made alongside it. Remember that the iPad unveil was as much about netbooks and why they were unsuitable for Apple as much as it was about this particular piece of hardware.
Man, I just got the invitation in my mailbox. This is so exciting.
You're welcome, Leo.
Oh, it's a forward from Jason Snell. I guess that doesn't count, does it?
Are you going to start?
Can I be your +1?
You could try. Send an email to the RSVP address and see what happens.
When you get some time later on, the studio's all like alone and dim. Can you just sing that song from Mr. Magoo's Christmas Carol when he's all alone in the school? And for each hand was made for the world. Why don't my fingers fit?
I was thinking the Incredible Hulk sad piano music, but you know, whatever.
Here I am sitting with 3 people who are all going.
But somebody has to anchor the coverage.
Yeah, right. That's what I say to myself in my private time. Somebody has to be here. No, it'll be. You know what? The only reason I like to go, when it was Steve, of course, you really wanted to go. That's the best best ticket in town. To see Steve Jobs, as I did introduce the iPhone. Never forget it. Introduce the iPad. Never forget it. That was the last time. I was invited to an Apple event. Tim Cook is not as dynamic, and it's not going to be as dynamic, but I do feel like this is going to be a very, am I wrong? Is this going to be a big one? This is a big one.
one.
Not just for that, but if they also choose this date to release iOS 8, or at least say it's going to be released in 10 days, and this is their big opportunity to say, here is everything we put into iOS 8. Just the stuff that they've showed off in WWDC would make it a really huge, very important keynote. But if they have other features they held back because they didn't know if they're going to be putting it into the final release or not, that will be huge as well. This really is. I've said this so many times before, but I'm still excited about it. iOS 8 is the most important thing to happen to the iPhone since I think the first day of release.
John Gruber, of course, joked that he said it was a joke. I didn't. As it turns out, it may not have been a joke. That the iWatch would also be announced in September. Something nobody thought would happen. But then John Pachkowski at Recode confirms it, and Pachkowski's usually pretty good. He doesn't say it unless he feels fairly confident that it's true. But we should warn you, just because they talk about it, A, doesn't mean even they'll show it. There's some question about whether they'll show something. And B, I think everybody agrees it won't be available this year. Is that right?
In classic Gruber, he responds to John Pachkowski's reference to his first joke with a new joke about mobile payments.
Can we put joke in air quotes?
Yeah.
I've been working on a new joke, writes Gruber, about NFC and a new secure enclave where you could store your credit cards so you can pay for things at brick-and-mortar retail stores just by taking out your iPhone, but only if it's one of the new iPhones. But no one seems to get my sense of humor. Now, we do see that Apple has apparently been talking to American Express, Visa, and other charge cards about exactly that.
And there have been NFC rumors about this for a little while now.
You'd have to have NFC, wouldn't you?
Yeah, you've got to have something that's readable and programmable so that it can interface
iBeacon
with
wouldn't be
other
enough.
devices.
Bluetooth LE wouldn't be enough.
Given that the POS terminals worldwide are using NFC,
right,
you can't arm twist an entire world in doing that. I also saw interest. One of those things that sort of distracts your thinking for a good hour after someone suggested a couple of weeks before a keynote, said, "Oh, isn't it interesting that now if this back plate is accurate, is an actual iPhone 6 back plate, maybe the reason why the Apple logo is now a cutout is because that's where the NFC transponder is to give people not only make it only transparent for NFC, but also to say this thing right here, here's where you line up the NFC for the target."
Apparently, Jim Dalrymple had a one-line. I don't know if I can repeat it, a one-liner in response to that. I'm trying to... By the way, I just want to say, Apple, okay, you don't have to invite me to this event, but I am going to be in London at the end of the month. If I could go to the Placido Domingo concert at the Roundhouse, the last day of the iTunes Festival, that would make up for it. I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
Good to know.
I can't find Dalrymple's. Oh, it was a tweet. All right, what did he say? Was it a yep or a nope or a?
I don't know.
Duh.
See, as an aside, now that when all these commentators talk about joking, I think that's like that move in chess where you move your piece, but you're keeping your finger on it. So you can say, okay, I haven't really moved it. I haven't really said it's going to happen yet. I can still take this back.
Well, this has been Gruber's shtick, and it's actually pretty darn funny, which is that
though.
he drops in facts. He's done this 3 or 4 times.
Has he?
Where he drops in a fact and doesn't say anything about, like, my sources are telling me or a little bird told me. He's like, oh, that's going to be really funny when they unveil that thing in September. And then he just moves on, and everybody's like, wait, did he just say what I thought he said?
It was a joke.
And in fact, at this point, Gruber mostly disclaims when he's speculating because he knows people believe that he's got access to all the secrets. So he'll usually say, look, I'm just speculating here. Yeah. Like when he did his big post about math, about the size of the iPhone screens and how they might work. He said, look, I just did this myself. I liked that I don't
post.
have that. That was John nerding out, and that was a lot of fun.
The Pythagorean theorem. And I think... we haven't seen any reason to disagree with it. So here's Dalrymple's tweet, which I can't read, but holy poop, people. Hang on to your hats. This is going to be a wild ride. And it was posted August 28th, just 4 days ago. And I think probably what happened is Dalrymple got his sources to tell him what they're going to see.
If we go by, I mean, the excitement level before WWDC was palpable, and it is, even if it's possible, is even more palpable now, which is usually a good indicator.
Is this... so it's going to be on the order of an iPad announcement or an iPhone announcement. It's going to be a new product, right? That's a new category. We know that.
Yes. You're going to get all of the... I mean, the iPhone announcement in general is the biggest announcement Apple will make any year. It's their biggest product by far. It's their most important product. It has worldwide appeal. When you look at the stats, I can tell you from Macworld's perspective, it's by far the event with the most interest in any given year from Apple. And then you throw in the potential for this new product where Apple is using all the attention that is always devoted to the iPhone to launch this new product, which is really smart.
Right.
If that happens, it'll be even bigger. It's already, just with the iPhone and iOS, it's going to be the biggest Apple event of the year. And if they throw in this wearable on top of it, it will be the biggest event since the iPad launch. Yeah.
WWDC is excitement for us. The iPhone, the fall announcement is that level of excitement for regular civilians who you can't explain why extensions are such a big deal for this operating system. But you see that here is the new phone. It is bigger. It is coated with this miracle device. And when you flip it over, now this can communicate with other devices that I couldn't communicate with before. And look, shiny, 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 and exactly 1.8 millimeters thinner. How do we do it? Elfin magic.
Hey, guys, in regular life, does anybody ever ask you about anything except when's the new iPhone coming out? That's the one that I hear. I don't hear, what about the new iPad? What about a new Mac? What about the new version of OS 10? No, it's what's the new iPhone? What's in the new iPhone? That is what regular people want to know.
I get a lot of questions about MacBooks. I would probably even say I get more questions about MacBooks than about iPhones.
What is wrong with your friends?
You have weird.
Well, because my friends and my friends and my family are thinking about spending $1,000 or $1,500 on a device that doesn't have a regular release schedule.
I'm asked for advice.
Whereas with the iPhone, none of the people I know are even in the market for a new phone until their contract is up.
See, I get asked for advice like that, and that's fine. But it's like standard conversation fare. Is just like everybody's just talking about the iPhone, and that's different, I think, from being asked for specific advice. I hear it all the time. It's amazing.
So let's talk about what we think we know about Tuesday. Obviously, we'll all find out. But if I'm going to make the bingo card, I need to know what you expect to hear. People stop doing that. I want to see a bingo card again. So you know where you put a check mark next to the boxes. Seems pretty clear. 2 new iPhones, a 4.7-inch and a 5.5-inch, possibly with the 2x, 3x resolution John Gruber calculated. The rumor is, though, that only the 4.7 will be available this month, probably, 10 days after the announcement?
They've done that in the past where they've had an esoteric, like, higher-end model that's ended up trailing the main model, and it wouldn't surprise me.
That'd kill me because I want the 5.5. They did that with the iPad last year?
No, with the Retina iPad Mini last year. Came out after the iPad Air.
Yeah. And Gruber's math is interesting. A slight tangent, but this is MacBreak Weekly. The Retina MacBook Pro did something that previous Macs had never done, which is it's got like a virtual screen resolution.
High DPI.
It basically paints a picture in its video card that is larger than the actual resolution of the screen, and then it scales it down. Yeah. And anybody who's used a computer over the years will think, oh my God, scaling down pictures on a laptop, that's going to look terrible. But at Retina DPI, you can't tell. You literally can't tell.
Plus, if it's a multiple, it's not 1.8 times, but 2 times, the scaling can be done much better.
Right, and if you've got some pixels that are a little fuzzy, they're so small that it essentially becomes
I'll vouch for that. I have a 4K display on my Mac Pro, and I use high DPI. I have a 1080, and then when it gets I've never seen anything so crisp. It's gorgeous.
Right, so it's not necessary. We have been living, iPhone users have been living in a world where it's a 1-to-1 pixel to pixel to dot ratio.
They've not done the high DPI.
And so if you've got a screen that's got a resolution of X, then what the video card does is draw every pixel.
Right.
And what the speculation that John Gruber did, and that some people who are very familiar with pixel by pixel art, like the Icon Factory and Craig Hockenberry, have talked about, is this possibility that they're going to take the same approach with iOS devices, at least in part, which is have it be larger and then just scale it down to fit the screen, because at some point the screen's so high res that you'll never tell the difference.
What's the impact on battery life and CPU, though, when you do that? Isn't that a lot of...
It does. It has an impact, but these will be bigger phones, and so it may be that they're shooting for battery life that's similar. I hope they're not, but that's similar
typically
to
what they do, isn't it? They've never... Yeah. The battery life is kind of a constant as they increase the...
They're solving for that battery life.
It's gone down a couple times, but they bring it back up when they do the S version.
Right.
Yeah.
And the other thing that bears mentioning is that I think part of the whole redesign of iOS 7 was to create user interface elements that aren't as intensive as drop shadows and gloss that have to be recalculated, or bitmaps that don't work. They created a user interface that if they did have to interpolate and scale up and down, it will still look great because there's nothing but precision in that interface.
Sapphire on both? Some people say Sapphire only on the big one.
I don't know.
Nobody really knows about the They know they've got a big factory in like Mesa, Arizona. I drove past it once on the way to the Phoenix airport. I was like, hey, Apple factory. And I think eventually, they're going to code everything in Sapphire, but whether the whole screen gets it now, or whether it's stuck on the like the Touch ID and stuff is a.
It is currently on the Touch
question.
ID and the camera lens.
Right. It's and I wonder about that Apple logo on the back, if it's truly a cutout with NFC, if they might make that scratch resistant too.
I continue to be unconvinced that Sapphire is going to be as big a deal as other people are making out to be, because when those rumors started flowing around, I started talking to people I know who are in the glass industry, not people who make specifically phones, phone screen covers, but people who are engineers who work in that industry, and they were telling me that Sapphire will be more scratch resistant, but will it be it'd be hard for them, from their perspective, at least a year ago, to produce a cover that would be better than, marketably better than whatever is in the Gorilla Glass product right now.
I think it's Apple clearly wants to control every bit of the chain it can, right?
Sure.
They'd ultimately like to make their own chips as well.
It's nice to have something that other phones companies do not have. Just like how originally they were the only ones that were doing solid state memory storage for all their music players, because they were the only company that had that much memory in storage.
Most recently, 64-bit, right? They're the only 64-bit mobile platform.
What are the new frontiers? What are the frontiers left in smartphones, right? Because they're all pretty good and pretty fast and all that, and it's things like impact resistance and better battery life, and glare actually is something that I've heard some rumors about, that Apple may actually be trying to work on glare, because the iPad is hard to see in bright light. And when I went on my beach vacation this summer, everybody had Kindles, and that's like, I have a Kindle, and it was kind of like glare. It's amazing, but you go to the beach,
and you're not talking about the Kindle tablet, but the
e-ink, because there's no glare problem there. So there a lot of material science, I think, is the next generation of things that we're going to see from phone makers and tablet makers, and whether the Sapphire will be the solution or not, I don't know, but it's interesting that Apple thinks it's a solution, because they've got this factory spinning up to build this stuff.
That's another good point, Jason. The reason why when I hear rumors about curved screens, the things that gets overlooked is that if you have a flat screen, you can tilt it so that the glare is eliminated. When you have a curved screen, there is always going to be a tangent somewhere on that curve where you're going to get nothing but glare. So that's why I don't know if we'll ever see a good use of curved glass.
I've used the curved LG Flex. Big deal.
The curve on the display.
Go ahead.
The curve on the display is not as important as what you do. Like, again, any technology is only as good as how well it's implemented. And you can curve the glass so that at the edge, at the non-display portion, it's smoother for when you do your persistent back gestures and things like that. But you don't want the curve on the display where, as Andy said, the photons blast right back into your eyeballs.
Other rumors, better speaker. That would be welcome. The speakers have not been much improved. In fact, now you've got HTC with excellent front-facing speakers.
Beat speakers,
you don't appreciate how bad the speakers are on any other phone, or how useful it is to have good speakers on a phone, until you use the HTC One and you realize that, oh, I'm actually not even bothering to connect this to my Bluetooth speakers. I can for listening to podcasts on my desktop. It's actually perfectly fine.
Yeah. And who else was going to do front-facing speakers? I saw another company.
Well, they had the HTC Aria too. The original Windows Phone launches had those massive speakers on the top of it. Yeah. Which were always.
Will they have stereo speakers?
Well, I don't know if they'll have. If eventually, I don't know this year, but eventually the Beats brand becomes the audio brand.
That's true. But that really sent HTC to the top, didn't it? When they
again, it's implementation. It's not idea.
Yeah.
It might be more about processing than about putting in different speakers, though.
They have
some good audio cooking.
Will they talk about Beats at all?
Will there be Beat headphones in the iPhone box?
It's a good question. I think there's probably going to be another event this fall that I suspect is when they'll talk about Beats more.
Will you see Dre on stage, Jimmy Iovine?
If they do that event and that's their more entertainment-themed event and it's for the holidays and it's got the iPad announcement, that would be the time for those guys, I think.
I think we got to put Dre in FaceTime jail and just say, let's not make another call to Dre anymore.
I wonder if they'd even do it at a club or do it at a music festival rather than doing a regular like Apple keynote style event, because there's so much content they have to put into that. That's about a lot more than here is a new button you have in iTunes. That I wonder if they're also going to want to start managing the brand by saying this is not a tech company that now has a music thing. This is now a music culture that Apple is now part of.
We're going to take a break. When we come back, I want to talk a little bit more about wearables. A really good article about Apple's PR machine by Mark Gurman in 9 to 5 Mac. I thought that was excellent. And a few other things on our agenda. Of course, our picks of the week 2 coming up. Rene Ritchie's here from imore.com, soon to be here. When are you coming down?
I'm coming down on Sunday.
All right. Look forward to that. Andy Ihnatko also here, soon to be here. And the Thin White Duke is behind you because...
Because whatever cool deficit I have, it's like me playing the same team with Shaq and teaming up to do 120 points. Like that's about a coolness. We're now basically in the top of the bell.
Bowie has excellent rebound numbers.
There you go.
Yep.
He's a killer in the paint, especially when the paint is on his face in the shape of a lightning bolt, as Ziggy Stardust.
Ziggy played guitar.
Ziggy played.
I love that. That is one of my all-time favorite albums.
Yeah.
And of course, we love having him here, Jason Snell of The Incomparable.
I'm here.
Your podcast empire is growing all the time. If you go to theincomparable.com.
Theincomparable.com, yeah.
All right. And of course, he has a day job at IDG. I don't know what he does there. Editor-in-chief of Macworld? Okay.
Sure.
Yeah, minor thing.
Yeah.
How long have you been at Macworld?
15 years. No,
Good Lord.
17 years, actually. 17 years.
So you started as a Cub reporter?
I started at Ziff Davis at Mac User, and then when they sold that off to IDG,
that's when we met, I think. Probably.
Yeah. And then was at Macworld, and we did Tech TV.
You used to come over all the time and do little bits and things.
About 17 years now, editor in chief for about 8 or 9 in there.
Always been one of my faves.
Jason and I became friends because Jason was the only person I knew who knew HTML markup, and I was writing code to set up a blog, and so it was like, Jason, I tried to center it, but it won't center.
Back in the Mac User days, it was like me and Chris Breen and Andy, and we're the ones who were left alive.
Look at my goal has always
we're like the surviving members of the Who.
That's right.
We have to get new drummers, new bass players, rotate in and out, but
always a new drummer.
Yep.
They self-destruct. No, it's always been my goal with all the shows to have kind of the most authoritative voices in a sector, and I don't think you can get more authoritative than Rene, Ritchie, Andy Ihnatko, and Jason Snell. That makes me pretty happy.
I always love being here with this group.
We're not sure yet, but we think we're going to be able to get a camera and some sort of magical streaming mechanism down to Cupertino. So what I anticipate happening, we'll cover you're not going to make it, you're 2.5 hours away, plus there's going to be a demo, so there's no way you're going to get it back here in time for MacBreak Weekly. So I'm sorry to say next week's MacBreak Weekly will be the B team. But the second unit, I don't even know who it's going to be. It's whoever wasn't invited to this event. Me. But I hope we'll be able to get you after the demo room, or maybe even in the demo room, depending on what kind of permissions we can get. Because I would love to get a stream of whatever they're showing off there. But at least we'll get your thoughts afterwards. Whether it's one of you, 2 of you, or all 3 of you, I would love to do that. And if you see Woz, you could pull him over. We like him, too. Our show today brought to you by Hover.com. Hover is the way to buy, manage, and control your domain names. It's what I use. Now, of course, I've been registering domain names for years, and I was with other registrars, but I moved everything to Hover.com. They have a concierge service that will do that for you free, which is awesome. It just gets it all over there. You pay $10 per domain, and that extends the domain for a year, so it's a really good deal. You'll see when you go, I invite you to go to Hover.com and just play with it a little bit. You don't even have to buy anything, but just to see how quick and easy it is to find a domain name. You don't have 18 different Be careful. You might actually buy it because it's so quick and easy. They automatically give you the things you want. Whois privacy is included free on every domain. A custom email. You get a smart control panel, which helps you manage DNS and things like that. And by the way, if you need it, the best customer support anywhere. They're very well known for their no wait, no hold, no transfer phone service. When you call, you're going to get a real person who's empowered to help. And you see, they have a lot of interesting now domains. Things like .club and .ninja, .guru. Just about anything. Of course, they still got the .com, the .net, all .org, all the ones that you want. But I think people are starting to open up to the idea that maybe .clinic is I got an idea for a new social network where everybody is verified, like with a cert, so that there's no trolling, there's no anonymity. Everybody owns their own words. And I was thinking of calling it, verified.com. Obviously, that's gone. But, maybe we could quickly register, Brian, verified.club. And then you could be in the verified club. Would that be good? Just thinking. This is why I have so many domain names. You get these ideas, you run over to Hover, boom, you got it. You've registered it. Plus, the transfer service means moving everything over there is completely painless. I just love hover.com. If you do decide to buy a domain name, we're going to get 10% off your first purchase with the offer code MBW9. MacBreak Weekly, September the 9th month. So MBW9 when you buy. Hover.com. You like that idea, don't you?
I just registered Snell.zone on Hover. So
isn't it awesome?
You can fall into the Snell zone now. It's safe.
Snell zone.
I used Hover to register what could be the single greatest domain name of all time that I was shocked that was still available. I'm just like you, Lee, I'm waiting for the right thing to attach it to. It was
Spring
just
it
too
on
good
people.
a domain not to have.
And if you don't want to type theincomparable.com, you can also just go to thebutter.zone.
The butter?
The butter zone.
The butter zone?
It's an inside joke. But yeah, it's easy to remember the butter zone.
The butter.
Sadly, butter.zone is not available, so I had to buy the butter.
I'm getting verified.zone. That's awesome. I could also get verified.mo. I don't know if Curly and Larry are also available, but
where's that Moe's Tavern Mo from The Simpsons?
Oh, maybe it's verified.fm, verified photos, verified pictures.
See?
Wouldn't that be awesome? These are actual domain names. They work.
They do?
They do. Verified social. Gotta get that. This is my new... I'm going to create a social network just like that. Just everybody's verified.
We were there at the beginning, fellas.
This would be... How hard could that be?
The idea on the tree.
Like a Twitter, but you can't be on it unless you send me a picture of you with your driver's license and today's newspaper. Wouldn't that be? And then you would only
sell some newspapers.
I don't know why nobody's done this. I know Google kind of, sort of, but they're Google. You can't do it with Google. It has to be some place out there. Verified holdings, verified associates, verified ventures.
Amazing. Verified plumbing.
You should make it more difficult. You should make it more difficult as there are more users. So the first time, like the first 1,000 users only hold up one newspaper. The first 10,000 after that, 10,000 users have to hold up 2 newspapers. Once you get to 1 million, you basically have to cover a
FBI
wall.
background check.
How about verified.wtf? That's available. Should I go for that one? Verified.ninja? Verified.rocks, getting that. See, this is why actually
it's addictive.
The problem with the Hover ads, they cost me more than I make.
The amount of money I spent on Hover.
Verified, is that available?
Oh, I don't know. I'm looking. Oh, Lucy, I'm verified. HIPAA verified. That's
verified.
Good. All right,
Tokyo.
I just spent $90.
Only $90, Leo. You've only spent $90 to get all of this joy.
It's mine forever.
Yes,
I love it. Who is privacy built in? And if I want, I can have mailboxes and all of that. I love it. Love it.
Appreciates your spending.
Are you like me? Is like when you get a list of like all the domain names that you've bought? Is that like sort of like a search, like a browser history on every good idea you had and the one
that never used?
You followed through on?
Yep. And because I have an account, I'm logged in. I've got I got to look up the CVV. All right. Can you just pause the show for a minute while I
Pull over to the side of the show.
I just want to buy these domain names. You don't mind.
This is the greatest Hover ad ever, I'm saying.
Okay, there we go. Done. All right, let's talk about what should we talk more about wearables? We do first of all, we aren't saying iWatch anymore. We're saying wearable, right?
Sure.
Why? Is that because the hat's going to be real? Your
smart hats?
Hat?
Oh man!
I give you a lot of credit, Jason. When
smart
that's
hats,
smart fezzes to be particular.
It's I think people are still wondering about this activity tracking stuff, and with the health kit stuff that's in iOS 8. And Tim Cook talking about how interested he was in the Nike Fuel Band.
Right. Well, he's on Nike's board.
I think people are starting to feel like the story can't just be, hey, it's a watch with notifications on it. It needs to have some other story.
That's
right.
my Android Wear watch or your Pebble watch, which you're still wearing.
I'm still wearing it.
It's really looking retro now.
Yeah, sure.
It's going to have some retro appeal.
Can't wait to replace it.
I want a fashion watch. And I note this, by the way. The Moto 360, LG's new R, which looks beautiful.
You don't want that, Leo.
I don't?
No, because the minute you start rendering text on that thing, you have no space anymore. Like they can't make it circular text. They're going to have a couple character space on the median line of that.
Right.
How do you flow an article or something? I mean, it's just...
Well, I don't read articles on my watch.
Well, no, but I mean, that dooms it to be a watch.
Okay.
I will likely. Actually, there's a Motorola event in Chicago on Thursday that I'll be attending. So I expect that I will have one on that day to finally take a look at. And I have to say, there's been so much negative stuff written about it at this point. Mostly speculation on why a certain person doesn't think it's a good idea, that I'm almost like it almost seems like that sickly dog at the pound, that I wanted to see why I shouldn't adopt this one, because if you're being abused this much, maybe you just need some love. I'm just I don't know. I've worn the big chunky square ones, and I'm kind of hard to get used to the big chunky square ones. The small chunky square ones, like the ones from Pebble, those are fine. So I'm curious to see how well they can use that round screen. But you have a point, Rene, but I don't know.
If Apple does this, first of all, we've seen that it may cost as much as $400. That's rank speculation. I bet even Apple doesn't know what it's going to cost.
So I mean, the thing about that
sounds
really
like subterfuge to me.
Subterfuge.
Well, there's two elements to that. One is that when the rumors for the iPad came out, the rumor was $1,000, and Apple got to announce at $500. But the other thing is that Apple's wearables, their current wearables, run Pixo and can't connect to the internet. They're called iPods, and they can clip on. They have various forms of clips historically for those. And Apple needs something that will take over for that dying device that is of iCloud and iOS time, of that age. And this is where all the wearables, and it's not impossible that within a couple of years we'll have a displayless wearable that looks like a band. We'll have one that has a square display on it. We'll have one that's higher end. We'll have one that maybe is incredibly fashionable. So you have all the price points from like 50 to 200 to 400 to maybe like a Mac Pro aspirational Yves Saint Laurent-esque wearable device. Because a family makes more sense for these products.
Yeah, for way further on down the road. I mean, I keep moving my thoughts back to the idea of a really good fitness band whose big selling point is that it is exceptionally well integrated to everything that the phone does. And on my own personal Andy Ihnatko talks about Apple wearables bingo card, the one that you get for free is, I don't see Apple making a wearable that you can sell to a woman as easily as you could to a man. And to me, at this point in 2014 or 15, that means forget about the display, forget about battery life, just make something that has a big bundle of sensors. So if all it did was fitness tracking and also proximity to other Apple devices and cool things that could be done in Yosemite or iOS 8 to take advantage of the fact that it knows you're standing in front of this Apple TV at this juncture, that could be worth $50 or $100 of anyone's money.
I love the idea. Rene mentioning when I mentioned subterfuge earlier, I really did mean that iPad rumor of 1,000, which I kind of think was a leak made so that Apple could come up with a price that blew people away. And when I see these stories about the watch or whatever it is being $400 or $450, I get that same vibe. Like that's a price that's put out there so that when they come in under it, people will be surprised by it. And you mentioned the iPod. This may not happen. I thought that the perfect name for the iPad was iBook because they had retired that name. And I do still have this feeling of like, what will you call this wearable? And I keep thinking maybe iPod is the name for it.
Oh.
Or maybe they just call it Apple Wear. Oh yeah, they did Android Wear. So
you got Android Wear. I don't know if Apple wants to.
But on that basis, I'm looking for. I think they want to get something non-techy about it. But one comment on that price point, that rumored $1,000 price point on the iPad. At the time, I was saying that if you believe that, you're a dope. That's way too much. They can't sell it for that much. I keep seeing, I think a few months ago, we were talking about rumors that the first wearable that Apple does is going to be a very elegant design watch that will cost $1,000. And I dismissed that as being absolutely ridiculous. So I don't think that anybody's setting an expectation of that ridiculous a price point. We absolutely don't know. That's the only thing you can say at this point. We have no idea.
400 is what Samsung charges for some of its watches. I don't think 400 is.
Well, it depends what it does for you, right? Like the value that it gives you for that
what's
money.
really clear, and I'm very curious if Apple can change this, is that any watch is a luxury. It's not a must-have item.
Yes.
It's an extra it's an accessory you might want.
Yes.
Like better pair of headphones. It's not something everybody needs. Can Apple change that? Should Apple change that?
Well, I think that's what goes behind some of the wearables talk about not a watch but a wearable. Is the fitness stuff actually is really interesting, and sensors and integrating it and seeing how you sleep.
Will they still have notifications and all of that too?
I don't know. I mean, this is why everybody's sort of fascinated to see what Apple's going to do, because there's a whole menu of things that Apple can choose from, but which ones do they think are the ones that will work? And maybe the case is that nobody's done the fitness wearable right up to now, and Apple's presence is going to, they will have cracked it. but it is hard to see something that's just a watch with notifications or just a fitness band as being this category-defining big new direction for Apple. There's something missing from the story.
Yeah. That's what I was saying earlier, and I wasn't trying to be mean about the round wearables, but those are primarily watches because you still have to render the screen, and you're basically cutting off pixels, and you're limiting what it can do as a computing device. And Apple maybe will make one day, but we don't have a lot of round digital displays in the computing world, and that's probably for a reason. I mean,
so what will it look like?
Either.
Well, we also didn't have a whole lot of multi-touch displays up until a certain point, and then there was a reason for them to exist.
Well, that's it. It's got to have a reason, and right now the reason is aesthetic because it looks really great when you put it into watch mode. But to Jason's point, and we had a really good panel at Macworld that Jason hosted, is the Apple TV is not a leg product for Apple. It is not a main product. It's a product that makes the ecosystem better. And an iWatch, and I think it was Ben Beharin who did the math, an iWatch is going to be very hard to move a needle for Apple because you can't sell enough of them at a high enough margin to significantly impact something as big as an iPhone class business. But what you can do is make a product that makes owning an iPhone better, that makes being involved in Apple's ecosystem better. And that's a family of products, and that can include, off the top of my head, logging, which is where you have HealthKit, controlling, which is where you have HomeKit, the authentication, which is where you have PassKit or whatever they call the new mobile payment stuff, and things like notifications. I've heard about the other three. I haven't heard about notifications much, which is interesting to me because that's mostly what I heard about when it came to Android Wear.
Yeah, remember that I think that of all the wearables that I've used, and I will include Google Glass in that, it seems as though there are two things that I value about them. One is sensor data, but the other is the ability to keep my phone in my pocket unless I absolutely need it. So once they crack the problem of having a decent screen, I find that what I love about the Pebble is not all the apps that I may or may not install on it, but the simple fact that when I feel a buzzing in my side pocket, I can simply go like this, and that's all I have to do because I can keep my phone in my pocket. So I think that even if it is maybe underwhelming, whatever wearable they do at the very beginning, and I agree that I don't think I have any idea really what they're going to be doing. If all it does is triumphantly launch an entirely new product line, that will be enough for Apple. Just like the original iPod led to the iPhone, and then the iPhone led to the iPad, even though looking back, the iPod was just a much more stylish and more useful version of something that already existed as a digital music player. I'm underselling the iPod, I know, but the point is that if all this does is kick off a new brand, call it again Apple Wear or Apple Strap or whatever they want to call it. If all it does is establish this brand, is here's something affordable right now, or something that the really hip people with lots of money will want to buy. But boy, the rest of you come back in a year because we're going to keep building and building and building. This is not an Apple Hi-Fi where we're going to have to field snarky questions. So still happy you throw out all your stereo equipment, Mr. CEO?
Is there a precedent for that though, Andy? I think in every respect, the iPhone, the iPhone got better, but we didn't know it was going to get better. It seemed like it was great from the day one. iPad, same thing. iPod, same thing. Is there a precedent for coming out with something that is okay, but we're going to make it great next year? That doesn't seem like Apple's way.
The original iPhone didn't sell that well, and the original iPad didn't sell that well. It was as they went to future generations. The iPhone 3GS was twice as fast, but much lower price, and the iPad 2 was when it hit mainstream. When I started seeing my high school teachers lining up for it.
So that is a precedent then.
Yeah, I mean, Apple knows what they're going to do. Apple works 3 to 4 years ahead, so they're building this the same way when they built the iPhone. If you go back and look at the Project Experience Purple prototypes that Johnny Ive built, they look like what it took Apple till the iPhone 4 to get to.
They know where
the iPad Air to get to.
They know their roadmap. They know where they're going.
But it takes a while.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to spend a lot of time speculating because it's only a week away, and I think we will know a lot more next week.
Yes, I think we will. We may know all the things.
Some more fodder for the rumor mill, I think.
This is our last chance to speculate. Next week, all our imaginations will be worth nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Jimmy Kimmel had a little bit of a scoop the other night on the larger iPad. I thought I'd show you the video so that you know what to expect. Can you pull that up? Do you have any ability? There we go. This is Jimmy Kimmel.
Like now, this woman, if you've seen this before, this is what it's going to look like with the new iPad.
The new iPad. It's kind of like the Surface table. Thank you, Jimmy. Huh?
Wacky prop comedy, just make it way big.
I like prop comedy. Bring me back Carrot Top and Gallagher. I love it. And it works. It actually has a camera that's that's working.
Here's
in there.
Carl Malden's Kleenex box.
Renee, were you going to mention the Fox News newsroom that's got the giant tablets that are larger than humans?
Yeah. Those are Surfaces.
Although they're normal size to Clayton Morris. I don't know how that works.
Well, I was watching Dead Mouse yesterday on the iTunes Festival, which, by the way, Apple deserves a lot of credit. Audio, video stream, remarkable. I'm watching it on a high-def TV, listening on a very good surround sound system, and it sounded great. And apparently, this mouse fellow uses a Microsoft Pixel Perfect display as one of his touch screens. So Apple, get in on that, because I'm sure he'd like to be using an Apple product, as all celebrities do.
You hear a lot of artists say they love Apple stuff, but when I hear about this iPad Pro rumor, that's what I start to think of is that
12.9 inches,
people like artists who really want to use and try very hard, despite the fact that the digitizers are way better on some Android tablets and the Microsoft tablets. They want to use the iPad, and if Apple, maybe that's the product that finally speaks to them.
Here's a big story. Speaking of many years in the business, right about when you were a cover reporter at Mac User Magazine, a 14-year-old named Anand Shimpi started Anand Tech, started blogging about the tech industry. In the intervening 17 years, he has become, without a doubt, one of the most interesting, most intelligent and accurate reviewers of products. Nobody tests things like Anand Tech.
Yep.
Anand announced, kind of shockingly, that he was retiring from tech journalism on his blog. What he didn't say is where he was going. Apple.
I know.
Yep.
What will Anand do at Apple? By the way, I'm embarrassed because I immediately sent him a note saying, Anand, if you'd like to be on Twit from now on, you can. And then I found out he was going to work for Apple. Are you going to work for Apple?
It was
Anything to that rumor?
I have nothing to report. Although it reminds me a little bit of when Michael Gartenberg, the analyst, who is oft-quoted, and he wrote a column for us and Mac and Computer World, and then he got hired by Apple, and
going over to the dark side.
And he's although he was an analyst, so it's debatable.
Right, he was already on the dark side.
He was always on the side of good, and now
Anand, I think Anand has always liked Apple products, been pretty positive.
Yeah,
about Apple
he's
products.
been invited to the last few Apple events. He's
He's a big shot,
and he's taken
Insider.
he's taken their chip stuff really seriously. Like he's really broken down what Apple's been doing with the A processor
excited
line.
by it.
Yeah.
So what do you think he'll do? I mean, I think a smart thing for Apple to do would be have somebody bloody and independent-minded like Anand to kind of, before these products are shipped, do his reviews. Say, look, here's what's wrong with this. Here's what a reviewer is going to say about this. Wouldn't that be useful to have somebody like that? I think he's an Apple fellow.
Samsung's done that for a while. Samsung and HTC both hired bloggers for a while to sort of be internal reviewers.
And also to keep the eye on the competition, to see what Apple is. I mean, he's just a really smart guy. I look at this and think, good to have a smart guy like him on your team.
You bet.
Bottom line, and find a way to use him. And I mean, that's how I felt about Gartenberg too. It's the same.
Right.
Was the same thing. It's like, wow, he's really smart, and now he's playing for Apple, and Apple gets all of his information, and none of the rest of us get to hear it. They've taken it all for themselves.
Known previously, but 9 to 5 Mac reported on it at the same time that Anand's mobile editor, Brian Klug, had gone there several months earlier.
Right.
Oh, I didn't know that. Brian's great, too.
Yeah.
Brian's reviews of the iPhone were stunning.
Intelligent.
There was an amazing message board post that somebody linked to that was from a few months ago that basically said, I think these guys are going to leave Anand Tech, and it was like a prediction, and they totally called it just by reading the tea leaves, and but it's fascinating. So those are two, Anand Tech will continue, and I think Anand feels that it'll continue to do well, but they've taken these two incredible talents and brought them on the inside. So who's next? Maybe that's why they haven't invited you, Leo, is they're planning for the job interview.
How much, I thought about this last night, would it take for Apple to hire me away?
Leo,
That's a good question.
You've been saying time and time again how sad you are you haven't been invited. Are you throwing a double bluff at us so you don't know we don't know that you've actually been taking meetings and that they're measuring you for the golf shirt?
You figured it out.
You'll know when I take the stage next to Tim Cook and Phil Schiller next Tuesday.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But I think it's smart to hire. In fact, I think they should hire people who actively criticize responsibly and with thoughtfulness what they're doing.
Well, Anand is that perfect person for that, in that he was always extremely objective. He's so knowledgeable, especially about the processor stuff. And so to have him,
too.
yeah, Yeah, well, I keep saying they should hire John Siracusa, but John Siracusa doesn't want to move to California anyway. So.
Ars Technica's brilliant. He's a freelancer, though, right?
Yeah, he's got a day job. He's a web programmer, and then he does the podcast and his OS 10 reviews for Ars in his spare time.
Yeah. Those OS 10 reviews are like Anand's reviews of hardware. They are definitive.
Definitive. Yes.
Anyway, I'm sorry. I'm thrilled for Anand. I love the guy. We started interviewing him when he was in his teens on the Screensavers, and I just think he's such a great guy, and I'm glad for him. But I think it's a loss to us as readers of.
It reminds me of the in the baseball world when Moneyball took off and Sabermetrics took off. There were all these great writers who wrote for sites like Baseball Prospectus, and most of those people got hired by baseball teams. And like even Bill James, the father of Sabermetrics,
Bill James,
he got hired by the Boston Red Sox. Most of these people now work secretly,
right,
trying to get a business advantage, and good for them because those are good jobs, and I'm sure they pay way better than Baseball Prospectus did. But I feel like
read Bill James nonstop,
and
I just really felt like
I feel like that's sort of happening with something like Anand going behind the curtain. It's like a great for him, great for Apple, and it's a loss for us because we don't get his thoughts to us now.
Jason and I have seen this a lot. Like I went from product marketing at a company to working in basically media, but there are a lot of people who go from media to PR and back and forth because they're basically inverse skills.
You went from bodyguard to media, so I think that's I don't know why.
I went from bodyguard to product. No, I taught. I never practiced, but I went from product marketing to media.
Are you like a super duper black belt in jiu-jitsu?
No.
What do you? So like, if next time I see you, you're not going to kick my ass, are you?
No.
Okay.
No.
I'm going to be nice to you.
I'm a peaceful guy.
I am going to watch my step, Andy. There's so much we could talk about, but you know what? We're going to reconvene next week and have even more. So this might be a good time to move along.
We'll have actual phones.
Actual. I want the 5.5. I don't want the 4.7, and they're going to break my heart because they're going to say the 5.5 is available in December or something, and I'm going to be stuck using this Android crap. Actually, I'm very excited. We will cover, just so people know, tomorrow is Samsung event to release the Note 4 is 6 a.m. our time, but I think I'm going to come in and just kind of I'll wear my jammies and my slippers, and by myself we'll do that.
It'll be like the New Year's thing all over again.
John, you making a note of that? 6 a.m. Okay. And then the 4th is the Moto X announcement.
Right.
And I'm a fan of the Moto X. I thought that was the best phone of the year in many respects. So I'll be very interested in what they've done to update that. They certainly need to improve the camera and the screen.
There's a great line in the chat room. Rene is secretly Wolverine. He's the best he is at what he does.
He does
what
look
he does
like
is
Wolverine.
Extremely nice.
Yeah.
I think Guy English claimed Wolverine before I could.
Guy English? No.
That's a fake name.
Our show today brought to you by the best place to put your next website or your first website if you don't have one yet, squarespace.com. You know, everybody ought to have a website. If you're a business and you don't have a website, it's like saying, oh, yeah, we don't have a phone number. Just come over and see us. I always check the website before I hire a plumber, a contractor. I want to see what you have to say for yourself. And so this is where you should set up your place, because the whole point of Squarespace is you could focus on what you do and your content and let Squarespace handle the tricky technical details. There is, I will say this right now, no web hosting company, no content management system that is more forward-thinking, more technically sophisticated, cleaner, more elegant than Squarespace. You could just take it from me. If you want to have a mobile responsive site, if you want to have a site that looks like the latest, greatest stuff, always, even as that changes, just go on Squarespace. You'll start with one of their 25 beautiful templates. They have a logo creator tool, so if you're a small business, you can't afford an artist, you can create a logo right there very quickly. Great workshops that help you if you have any trouble. Self-help articles, too, and, of course, the best help and support in the business right from the Squarespace offices, 24/7. It's inexpensive, too. It starts at $8 a month, and that includes a free domain name when you sign up for a year. It also, by the way, includes e-commerce. Every site has e-commerce, mobile responsive. It goes on and on and on. I want you, their apps, the Metrics app for the iPhone and the iPad lets you follow your site and keep track of stats like page views, unique visitors, even social media followers. I just think this is spectacular. Please try it. Best part is you could try it for free. Go to squarespace.com, click the Get Started button. They won't ask for a credit card or anything. You can have 2 weeks, import your data. They have importers for all the major blog platforms if you have an existing site. And notice, by the way, how decoupled the design is from your content. You can try every one of those 25 templates with a click of the mouse and then completely customize it, and your content's, you know, completely the same. Even the images, the links, the SEO, everything. If you decide you want to buy, and I think you will, please do me a favor and use the offer code MacBreak. That'll get you 10% off your new site. A better web awaits, and it starts with your Squarespace website. Squarespace.com. Try it free. Use the offer code MacBreak when you decide to buy. Time for our tips of the week. Let's start with Andy Ihnatko.
My pick this week is a really cool iOS photo filter app called Tangled FX, where it will take the original source file and it does one thing only. It just basically redoes it as swirls of either threads or paint brushes. And as bored as you might be with the idea of another, oh, look, it makes it look like paintbrush, you have not seen how good this thing does it.
I have the you sent us the link. This is the original. And who is that?
That was a Doctor Who cosplayer from Boston Comic Con a couple weeks ago.
I should have known from the brocaded vest. And then you have, you've turned him into Vincent Van Gogh, I think.
Yeah, I mean,
wow.
zoom in too, because that's the detail in that. That's not even the high resolution version of that picture.
Wow.
And it got every single one of those strands of hair. It was also smart enough to realize that the circles in the eyes should not be like swirled into incomprehension.
Oh, that's neat. Yeah.
And obviously some pictures work better than others, and this is not something where you're going to. It's not like a photo processing tool where you improve every photo with it. But sometimes you encounter a photo where it really does something really, really great with it. Or, as I often say when I come across these different like oil painting sort of transmogrifiers, sometimes you get a picture there, it's a little bit blurry, so you can't use it, or the phone went to super high ISO, so it looks very grainy, so you can't use it. But if you apply a filter like this to it, it suddenly looks like it obliterates all that sort of stuff that made it unusable and turns into something actually interesting and worthy of sharing.
Tangled FX.
$2.
Not Tangled, the Storybooks Deluxe from Disney. That's another Tangled.
Although it would probably do, with all that hair, they would probably do a very good job on that frame too.
And $2. And yeah, there's an iPad version as well as a iPhone version. That is so. It's not just the Van Gogh effect. It does all sorts of.
Right. There are about a dozen of them, and each one of them. Now the interface is a little bit not iOS optimized, but that's kind of a good thing because you can sort of do a reveal and get access to every slider that the algorithm approaches. So if you think that, gee, that would be nice, but there isn't enough detail there, or they lost some of the color, you can say, okay, just give me more detail, give me more color.
Add this to hyperlapse, and it's another reason why I'm actually, you know, I've been using Android for a long time because I like the bigger screens. I want a bigger screen, and I hate the iPhone keyboard. It's unusable. And in my opinion, it's just ergonomically brain dead. They're going to fix both of those things. And then if I have a bigger, you know, a 5.5 inch, and these apps, I don't know if I'll ever go back to Android. I'm just as I was using this yesterday, someone on Twitter was nice enough to like suggest this to me, so I was playing with it yesterday, and I have to say the only thing that I'm totally miss about the iPhone is access to apps like these, because these really weird but exceptionally well done apps are not available for Android. The marketplace on Android is great no matter what you need, and even most of the stuff you want is there too. But the people who the weird people who come up with this, their first choice is never Android. And even Instagram, who did hyperlapse, said we can't do it on Android until they have the gyroscope function. Which they'll have in L, but they don't have right now.
Like I said at WWDC, if Apple does come up with that really big screen iPhone and they deliver an iOS 8, I'm running out of reasons to keep using Android.
I'm drooling. Thank you, Andrew Ihnatko. Mr. Jason Snell, how about you? You got something for us?
Yeah, a little while ago, a company, a startup, created an interesting iOS, and it's now on Android, mail app called Mailbox, and they were purchased by Dropbox. And this is it's mostly for Gmail, although it works with, I think it works with other services. Anyway, there's a Mac beta now, and since this is MacBreak Weekly, I thought I'd mention the fact that they now have a beta. You have to sign up for it, or if you have a friend who has it, you can get what they're calling a beta coin. But you can request a beta coin, and I got one within a week.
I've been using it on iOS, so I should be able to get it.
And so it syncs. If you're using it on iOS, it will sync up, and now you can use it on your Mac, and it goes back and forth. And the trick with Mailbox is it allows you to triage your mail very quickly. You can if you're like me, you use your inbox as sort of a to-do list. And one of the nice things about Mailbox is it lets you say, okay, I do need to deal with this, but not right now, and set a timer and basically say, tell me about this tomorrow, tell me about this next week, whenever, and then it goes out of your inbox, but it's still there in the background waiting to come back in your face at a more appropriate time. So you can get down to 0, but still have things on your to-do list if you work like that, and that's how I work with my inbox. So
this was quite a breakthrough. This app, like Delicious Library, spawned a whole bunch of ideas of how to manage data. I
it's
think.
a different way of handling mail and triaging mail, and it doesn't work for everybody, but it really works pretty well for me. So I'm using Mailbox for Mac right now, and we'll see how it goes. But I really like the idea that you can, with just a few swipes, you can delete a message, you can mark it as read, or you can set it to come back at a later time, and then it comes back later to remind you.
Mailbox. iOS now beta for OS 10, and if you have an iOS version, you can get a token and get it.
Exactly, and it's mailboxapp.com.
Love it. Mr. Rene Ritchie, your pick of the week.
I have a few picks because it's going to depend exactly what you want to use on your own personal taste. But one of the things we like to do when there's a security problem is give people as much help as we can on making their stuff more secure. So we put up a list of secure, encrypted, or ephemeral photo apps so that if you do want to share personal photos, you can do it with an app whose only purpose is to keep those apps secure. So I'm just going to pull it up because I lost the window, of course. So there you have several things to choose from here. I apologize for the delay.
No problem.
But you have Snapchat, which a lot of people use. Might not be as secure as possible, but there's a large likelihood that the person that you know of is using that. There's also Stitcher, there's Avocado, there's Bonfire, there's Confide, there's Cyberdust, which we mentioned earlier. So you have your choice. You can go and look at them, and you can see this one does encryption. This one just deletes it immediately. This one makes it hard to screenshot it or capture it. And there's a whole list along with the pros and cons for each one, sort of what each one does well and what each one does badly. And if you do want to do this, and again, it's a perfectly normal thing for anybody to want to do, you can do it with something that is designed to protect your privacy from the beginning.
Nice.
Yes.
Private photo sharing at imore.com. The list is there. We do know that Snapchat saves those images on its server, so...
Yeah, the advantage of Snapchat is just that it's for a mainstream person, for someone who's not
Easy.
a celebrity.
Yeah,
and a lot of people who you know might already be using it, so it's ubiquitous.
Yeah, and Avocado is one of the couple apps that I mentioned that you pair with another person and share your data just with them, your significant other, and that's of course where all my dirty pictures are. So, and there's this Mark Cuban's Cyberdust. Good article. Yeah. Did you mention Couple? That's another one like Avocado.
We didn't, but I'll take a look at it.
Yeah. And God, I hope they don't get hacked. Not that anybody wants nude pictures of me.
I don't know. Maybe Leo. Maybe that's what would turn around the Apple situation for you. They say, "Oh, I didn't know he had that kind of abs." All right,
it's those washboard abs.
I want to meet this dashing young sailor.
They do it every time. I mentioned the iTunes Festival. It just started yesterday with an amazing performance by Deadmau5 at the Roundhouse in London. 30 days of performances. Beck is performing right now, and you can watch it on, of course, your iOS device. But if you've got an Apple TV, I highly recommend tuning in the iTunes Festival on your Apple TV. I was just really enjoying it at home yesterday, blasting Deadmau5. There's Beck performing right now, and or about to perform. He hasn't taken the stage yet. I'm blown away by what Apple is able to do. But not only the camera work, but the quality of the stream and the quality of the audio. This is state-of-the-art video streaming. I don't think anybody does it better than Apple. Really,
I actually think that one of the reasons they now live stream their events is the expertise they built up by doing the iTunes Festival. Yeah.
iTunesFestival.com. iTunesFestival.com. But the best way, in my opinion, to do it is fire up your Apple TV. They've added an icon on the Apple TV. As you can see, Beck has yet to take the stage, so if you'd like to tune out and start watching, go ahead. Be my guest.
It's like the US Festival, only it's probably revenue positive.
Yeah, poor Steve Wozniak lost much of his fortune in that. The other pick I have, we because of Labor Day in the United States yesterday, we didn't do iPad today, and I would have mentioned BioShock. The original BioShock is now available, ported to the iPad for $15. I thought it would load because usually I have all my apps will load automatically, but it's not yet loading. So it's taking such a massive application, so I can't show you. But for those of you who played BioShock, which in my opinion is one of the great games, this is the first in the trilogy, not the most recent, but the first. They're Underwater and Rapture. It was a great game. You know, I have some qualms about recommending first-person shooters on the iPad. It uses the standard first-person shooter iPad technique of, you know, the left side is your movement and the right side is your point of view, and you tap things to fire. And I just find first-person shooters in general not to be well suited to the iPad, but they have done a good job of converting it. The artwork is excellent. The story is incredible. And if you're willing to spend $15, it was $60 originally, so you're saving some money. That's BioShock.
If you want more premium games, support premium games.
Yeah. And I still have to say, I think in general that I prefer games that are designed for touch. I just think that they work better. Things like Fruit Ninja, just such natural games on the iPad, dots, because they use swipes, they use touch, and the first-person shooter ports, in general, leave me wanting. However, this is an excellent port. I mean, they've got the full game in there. Yeah, and one of the best games of all time. Yeah. BioShock.
These fast Twitch games, I prefer to have mechanical buttons underneath my hands. So,
you know, they make some third-party joysticks that probably would work fine on these. Yeah. I guess, I don't know.
Wait till you get your new Apple TV with its
but I was about to say.
Yeah, it needs a controller. I've been playing Diablo 3 on a console, and boy, that game is better on a console. I played it on my Apple when it came out, but really, the console controller is great. Thank you, my friends. You rock, and we will see you Tuesday for what promises to be, I think, the most exciting Apple event in 4 or 5 years.
Big day.
You will all be there. I will be here anchoring our coverage. It begins 10 a.m. Pacific. That is, let's see, 1 p.m. Eastern Time, 1700 UTC, with the Apple stream and our commentary. I know it'll be me, Mike Elgin, and Sarah Lane. We'll see if we can find anybody else who wasn't invited and invite them.
The island of unloved hosts.
And I hope we'll have streaming video at least a little bit. Worst case, we'll do FaceTime with Andy and Rene down there at the event after you get to touch whatever it is Apple is sticking out.
Show title.
We almost made
whatever it is, Apple's sticking out.
Don't take a picture of that on iCloud.
So close. Yeah.
And Jason Snell, we love having you. You come up anytime. Theincomparable.com, the site for his podcasts, which are truly incomparable. Really enjoy them. And, of course, Macworld.com and TechHive.com and, Greenpot.com and PCWorld.com.
And Snell.zone.
Snell.zone.
Sure.
Did you get it?
I got it.
You got it?
Hover.
You're in the
Took care of
Snell
me.
zone. Stay tuned. There's more. You can make a Zombo.com out of the Snell zone.
Sure.
Yeah.
You need a nice Fox News sort of anthem. Dum, da, dum, da, dum, dum, dum,
Submitted for your approval.
I'm working on it. I'm working on
A
it.
man, a machine, a Snell.
Colbert Report.
Thank you, everybody, for being here. We do MacBreak Weekly at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 1800 UTC on twit.tv, live Tuesdays. And we like it if you're here live because we can chat with you in the chat room and all that. But if you can't make it live, we do make on-demand video available and audio, too, at twit.tv/MBW, also youtube.com/MacBreakWeekly, and wherever podcasts are aggregated and distributed over the Internet, places like iTunes, and the podcast app, and places like Stitcher. So please, and of course our great third-party apps, many really nice apps developed by fans on all the major platforms, including Roku. Just search for Twit. Thanks for joining us. Now get back to work, because you know what? Break time is over. You guys are just going to have a great time in beautiful Cupertino. Enjoy the baked goods. Apple often has a very nice Danish.
We'll see what they have at the Flint Center.
Look on the bright side. Maybe this is like one of those 30 days later scenarios where you'll be the only person to survive because of the zombie outbreak that was epicentered at the Flint Center.
There we
The
go.
new iPhone falls on us and kills us.
You got to have the far shot. Oh.
A man all alone.